So hello, and before we start, I just saw my screen turn black, and then I think twice. I think did anyone else have still having problems with the image transmission? Black for a moment. This happened last night as well. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to. Last night it happened, and it we kept the transmission going, but there was a strange things with. With the image, it was kind of stretched out, like a amusement park's kind of mirror that you stand in front of. So we'll see if a couple of things might happen. One is that if it happens again, I'm going to switch. The screen is frozen. Yes, also saw that yesterday during the EEE day long. Well, the day long had nothing to do with. Well, then I think it might be a internet service provider problem, and it's spoke soon. The image goes back and forth for you. It's intermittent. It seems to be. I'm going to switch our service provider. We have two of them here, and I'll be right back in a moment. Yeah, so some people are having this issue, and we're having it here as well. Some people are not having the issue of the screen going black. And I made one change now, and so we'll see if that makes a difference. And if it doesn't, then I have one more change I can make. If we lose the YouTube connection, you might have to log on again. So we'll see. So in some ways, having things not go right is not wrong for the purpose of Dharma practice. It's just something else to fold into our practice and to be mindful of, and be careful that we don't succumb to some kind of, the topic for this week, succumb to the hindrances. So in terms of the hindrances, today's topic is aversion or ill will. And this is very closely connected to its positive companion. It can look like it sometimes. And there is a way of saying no to things that does not have to involve aversion. And so for this purposes of the meditation, there is saying no thank you, or I'm not going to follow that train of thought, I'm not going to pick up that kind of situation, or I'm not going to be aversive. No, thank you to aversion. I'm not going to be swept up into the desires. And so rather than only kind of being mindful of what's happening, there is an appropriate way of saying no. And it's not so much a no of pushing something away, but it's a no of choosing not to be involved in it, not to pick it up, not to get entangled in it. And this makes a lot of sense the more we have some feeling or experience of peace or well-being in meditation, so that we can feel there's a loss. We diminish a little bit as we get involved in certain things. So in particular, we could have a healthy no to the mind's movement of aversion, of the mind's contracting around wanting something to go away. So here it went away. So it happened again, this blacking out. It seems to be happening intermittently. So I see some people are reporting it when it hasn't happened here. And some of them, and maybe it's happening here. I wonder if I read there's supposed to be solar flares today, and I wonder if there's something large like that. But I'm going to make one more change and see if that makes a difference. And if it doesn't, then, and it's possible we'll lose the connection. And I'll log back on again, and then we'll sit in silence and meditate with, maybe with a healthy no towards aversion. So hang on for a moment. So let's meditate quietly for the next 20 minutes. And that way, there might be all kinds of blanking out that goes on. And if it happens on the screen, we probably won't notice. And if it happens in our minds, may it teach you something about letting go deeply. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, sometimes the opposite of ill will is love and all the variations of love. Goodwill, compassion, kindness, appreciative joy, appreciation, delight in other people, warm-heartedness. We have this rich capacity for love in many, many flavors. To learn not to be caught up in ill will releases our capacity, frees our capacity for love. It's one of the most significant and healing aspects of our personal and social life. So may it be that whatever we learn these days about the hindrances and today about ill will, may it be a support for going into the world with at least a teeny bit more orientation to love, kindness, benevolence, goodwill. Appreciating and respecting every person that we meet. May this practice that we do today be for the welfare and happiness of all beings everywhere. May our respect for each person that we meet be a medium for bringing well-being and peace into this world. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. And may all beings be free. Well, if it blacked out again in the last 20 minutes, I wasn't watching the screen, so I don't know. Hopefully it's stable again, and we can continue with the talk. So today's topic is ill will as a hindrance. And the opposite of ill will is love of all the different kinds. The closely related, because it looks a little bit like ill will, is our healthy capacity to say no, to avert ourselves from activities which are harm-producing or unhealthy for us. And so, whereas love and ill will can be seen as quite distinct, this healthy averting can be confused with the aversion that comes with ill will. And so we have to be very careful here and Actually, it can be part of our strength, our capacity to say no thank you to things. So mostly here in meditation we're talking about internal things. So certain trains of thought arise, and we've been been on those trains a lot. We see that they usually end up in train crashes. And so we say, no, thank you. And we say no, or we turn ourselves away from the involvement with those. It's not being aversive or ill will towards them, but just knowing that this is not a good place to go. And so we have to it helps to see those two as distinct, because in relationship to ill will, there's a healthy way of saying no to it. We're not supposed to only accept it and hold it in awareness. There's times when we say, no thank you, enough, not this, we let go. And so the hindrances are fascinating. They are one of our primary areas of study, of investigation for people who do insight meditation. There's because these are the primary forces that are said to interfere with insight, interfere with concentration, interfere with our ability to really have clear attention to the moment. And one of the healthy ways of working with the hindrances so they don't predominate is to understand them well. And so rather than being upset if one of the hindrances arises for you, take it as an opportunity to understand it more deeply. And this is where turning around and looking at it deeply is part of what we learn and what we do. And some of the things we can learn for some of us, is that sometimes the hindrances are strategies for us to avoid things that are uncomfortable for us, things that are painful, difficult. And so some people run off to desire, to food and pleasures and things that take them away. Some people get involved with aversion, anger, and blame, and that's how they kind of are not really stopping to really be with the discomfort. They're pushing it away or directing, the attention outward towards the object of ill will. And so forth for the other hindrances. They can be ways in which the mind is trying to avoid stopping and really looking carefully, what's happening here really? Learning the skill of being present for what's uncomfortable rather than reacting to it. And so in ordinary mindfulness, everyday mindfulness, when the mind is not settled and concentrated, there's some wonderful ways of practicing mindfulness with the hindrances. One is to appreciate that often they have an object or kind of an object, some concern that we have. It's especially true for desire and ill will. And when we're caught in desire and ill will, we're often preoccupied with the object of the desire, the object of the ill will. And so it's kind of like the attention is directed, it's objectifying or objective attention. And so what we try to do then is to turn the attention around 180 degrees to feel what it's like to have desire, what it's like to have ill will. We let go of our concern with the object the best we can to really be present for the experience of desire, the experience of ill will. And that's what we're trying to discover or investigate to understand deeply. And that begins to break the trance, the allure of desire and ill will, when we're no longer committed to the object, but rather we're committed to our own well-being. And then we start feeling that this ill will or the desire is a kind of alienation. It's a way of being not connected to ourselves because we're so involved in the object. And even if the object's inside of us, if there's a narrowing and alienating kind of way in which we're only present for ourselves partially. And so this turning the attention around 180 degrees away from the object to what the experience is like, how it feels within us, is an effective way of working with the hindrances. As we do this, then also you want to start feeling what are the different emotions that come into play. So with ill will, uh, for sometimes anger or ill will, hostility, is people recoiling from their own sadness. Underneath ill will, there can be sadness sometimes. Sometimes there's hurt. Sometimes there's a loneliness. Sometimes there's some kind of inner pain that's the kind of the catalyst for this objectifying kind of ill will and hostility. So as we turn the attention around, we can kind of see the underlying emotion that's might be the fuel for it. And chances are that's what needs our love. That's what needs a caring, careful attention, more so than the hindrance itself. Sometimes in daily life, what we can learn to do with the hindrances is not, maybe it's hard to kind of pay attention to it carefully and turn around and look at it deeply. It's so strong and life is so busy and we know we have a hindrance, but we're kind of in the midst of all the activities of life and it's difficult to stop. Sometimes the significant thing to do is restraint, radical restraint. Just no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going along with this. I'm not going to speak from my ill will. I'm not going to act on my ill will. Just simply no. It's not pretty. It's not deep and insightful, but sometimes that's better than the alternative when we give into it. And there's a kind of wonderful muscle that gets developed, the muscle of restraint, that will serve a meditator tremendously through a lifetime of meditation. When meditation is deep, deeper, clearer, and this is I think the premise for the fourth foundation of mindfulness, is that a person has kind of followed the journey of practice, and it gotten quieter, stiller, more present. Then we have the opportunity to see the hindrance in a new way, and that is to see it as a inconstant experience, to see that it comes and it goes, to feel what it's like when it's not there, get to know it when it's not there. And in meditation, sometimes the quality of the absence of desire or aversion can be quite high. There's a real sense of peace, perhaps, or something that feels really nice, that's really, finally we're free of these hindrances that maybe is part of and parcel of our ordinary life. And so to take time to now feel that, turn around and really feel the well-being, the peace, the quiet, the stillness that might be there. Let it register deeply. The registering it sometimes allows it to grow and become fuller. But also to see the unconstancy of it. And this is where the insight meditation and the Satipatthana really comes to its maturity, is when we start seeing things arising and passing. In the terms of the hindrances, it's a little bit different, because there the text seems to imply that we should use our agency to let go of it. So if we can be really present to see it be ill will or aversion, hostility arise, and we're right there to see it come into being, this is a opportune time, a unparalleled time perhaps to let go. So it's almost like the body and mind has almost a memory of what it was like just before, when it wasn't there. And it's seen as a provisional state. It's seen as not having the absoluteness of really strong, fiery anger or hostility. It's just something that's appearing. The Buddha called it a visitor. And visitors that cover over or hide the luminosity of the mind. And so be quiet enough, and it's kind of a delightful, even amusing thing to be quiet and still enough and watch a movement towards ill will arise, and then say no, let go. Like, I'm not going there. And sometimes this letting go is just more like letting be, because we're not picking it up. We're just letting it be, letting it go by. And this is one of the deeper ways of practicing with the hindrances. And the reason it's deeper is that it's now beginning to align the practice with the emphasis in the refrain of the Satipatthana Sutta, to see the arising and passing of phenomena. And to really be there at the place where we can see how inconstant, how changeable our experiences, our perceptions are. And this is where, and so this clarity we're trying to develop by not having the hindrances obscure the mind, becomes this clarity of sitting quietly in the changing flow of experience in the present moment, the inconstant arising and passing, coming and going, appearing and disappearing, the flow of change that is the present moment. If we're in the present moment, things are always changing. And that's a deep, liberating place to sit and be. The hindrances are not liberating, but we're moving, we're developing attention to the hindrances so that that attention can become liberating for us. And the hindrances are just as good as object as almost anything else. So, so see today, if you have ill will, anger, hostility, aversion, that feels painful to have, and stop for it. Stop a lot. Really take your time with it. Do that. The practice of turning attention 180 degrees around to really feel it, get to know it, and if you have it, then when it's no longer there, feel what that absence like. And if you are tracking this through the day, perhaps you'll see the arising of ill will. Maybe it's driving your car and someone cuts you off, and you see it arise right there. And what opportunity? How's that different to have ill will? You see it arise than it is already in place. So I hope you can, in this way, maybe not enjoy your hindrances and enjoy ill will, but maybe enjoy and maybe even be amused in being mindful of it, seeing it clearly for what it is, and find a very different relationship to ill will than many people have when they are pushed around by it. So thank you, and I appreciate our time together, and we'll continue with these hindrances tomorrow.